For years, experimental gadgets were how the tech industry tested the future. Strange form factors, bold interfaces, unusual materials, and entirely new ways of interacting with technology appeared regularly. Some failed, some succeeded, and many quietly disappeared. But they served a clear purpose. They pushed boundaries and expanded what people believed technology could be. Today, those kinds of experimental gadgets are becoming noticeably rarer, and the reason is not a lack of creativity or engineering talent. It is a single design rule that has quietly taken over modern product development. That rule is simple: never break the core user experience. This principle now overrides almost every other design ambition in mainstream consumer tech, and its impact on experimental hardware is far deeper than most people realize. In earlier eras of consumer technology, awkwardness was expected. Early gadgets often demanded patience. Users had to learn new behaviors, tolerate bugs, and accept that things would not work perfectly all the time. Early smartphones had limited battery life and unstable apps. Early smartwatches felt unfinished. Early VR headsets were heavy, uncomfortable, and confusing to use. But those products felt exciting because they offered something fundamentally new. The friction was part of the experience. Today, that tolerance has largely disappeared. Modern consumers expect devices to work immediately, intuitively, and reliably from the very first interaction. There is little patience for learning curves, unclear interactions, or unconventional behavior. If a gadget feels confusing, incomplete, or disruptive to existing habits, it is quickly returned, ignored, or criticized. This expectation fundamentally reshapes how products are designed long before they ever reach the market. As a result, designers and engineers are under constant pressure to anchor new products to familiar patterns. New gadgets must behave in ways users already understand. Gestures should feel familiar. Interfaces should resemble existing systems. Setup should mirror what users have done before. Even when a new form factor could enable radically different interactions, those possibilities are often abandoned in favor of comfort and predictability. This design rule shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. New gadgets are expected to support existing app ecosystems rather than create new ones. They must use familiar charging standards. They must integrate seamlessly with existing accounts, cloud services, and accessibility features. If a product cannot plug into what already exists, it is considered risky. Over time, experimental ideas are softened, simplified, and reshaped until they resemble products users already know, even if that resemblance removes what made them innovative in the first place. Scale makes this rule even more powerful. When a product is shipped to millions of users, even minor usability issues can become massive problems. A confusing gesture or unclear setup step does not just annoy a handful of early adopters. It creates waves of customer support tickets, product returns, negative reviews, and social media backlash. At scale, friction is expensive. This makes companies deeply cautious about introducing anything that might confuse users, even temporarily. Ecosystem dependence reinforces this caution. Modern gadgets rarely stand alone. They depend on smartphones, operating systems, cloud platforms, third-party apps, and developer support. To survive, a new device must fit neatly into these ecosystems. Experimental hardware that requires entirely new workflows often struggles to gain traction because it asks too much from users and developers at the same time. Platform owners naturally favor products that extend existing experiences rather than challenge or replace them. Cost structure also plays a critical role. Experimental hardware is expensive to design, prototype, manufacture, and support. Tooling costs are high. Supply chains must be built or adapted. Support teams must be trained for unfamiliar issues. When an experimental gadget fails, the financial impact can be severe. In a business environment where companies are prioritizing predictable returns, margin stability, and operational efficiency, these risks are increasingly hard to justify. Regulatory pressure further narrows the path for experimentation. Modern hardware must comply with a growing list of requirements related to privacy, security, accessibility, safety, and environmental impact. Experimental designs often introduce new sensors, data flows, or interaction models that regulators have not clearly defined rules for yet. This uncertainty adds delays, legal risk, and compliance costs. Many experimental concepts never move forward simply because navigating regulation would take too long or cost too much. Inside companies, this design rule reshapes decision-making culture. Engineers and designers may still propose bold ideas, but those ideas pass through layers of review focused on usability metrics, retention forecasts, support implications, and risk assessments. If a prototype cannot demonstrate immediate clarity and low friction, it is often rejected early. Over time, teams learn to self-censor. They stop proposing ideas that challenge the core user experience too aggressively, because they know those ideas are unlikely to survive internal scrutiny. This does not mean experimentation has disappeared entirely. It has shifted location. Radical ideas are now more commonly tested in software rather than hardware. Software experiments are cheaper, faster, and easier to reverse. If a feature fails, it can be quietly removed or adjusted. Hardware, by contrast, is permanent once it ships. That permanence makes companies conservative. Physical gadgets must be right the first time, leaving little room for bold experimentation. Some experimental gadgets still reach the market, but they are usually isolated from core product lines. They appear as limited releases, niche products, or optional accessories. This allows companies to explore new ideas without putting their main user experience at risk. However, it also limits how transformative those products can be. They remain experiments rather than foundations for the future. The result is a consumer tech landscape that feels safer, more polished, and more predictable. Devices improve steadily in performance, reliability, and integration, but they rarely surprise. The design rule that protects users from confusion also protects companies from failure. In doing so, it quietly squeezes out the kind of bold, awkward, boundary-pushing gadgets that once defined technological progress. In the end, experimental gadgets are not disappearing because innovation has stopped. They are being constrained by a design philosophy that prioritizes consistency over curiosity and reliability over risk. Until the industry finds a way to reward experimentation without punishing short-term friction, the most radical ideas will continue to live on the margins rather than becoming the devices that shape everyday life.